Hey everyone, today we are going to tackle a concept that sounds super technical, but here's a little secret. You already get it. You probably use the basic idea all the time without even realizing it. So let's dive in and demystify what a limiting reagent really is. All right, first things first, let's forget the lab for a second. We're in the kitchen. So picture this. You've got 8 slices of bread and 3 slices of cheese. The recipe for a sandwich is simple, right? 2 pieces of bread, 1 piece of cheese. So the big question is, how many sandwiches can you actually make with what you've got? And the answer is 3. Simple enough. You can make exactly 3 sandwiches. But hold on, why not 4? You had enough bread for 1 more. So what was the problem? What stopped you? Right, you ran out of cheese. The cheese is what put a hard stop on your sandwich production. After you made those 3 sandwiches, you still had a couple slices of bread sitting there, but without any more cheese, well, your sandwich making day was over. And that feeling right there, that experience of running out of one key ingredient, that is exactly the same logic we use in chemistry. So let's give that special ingredient its proper name. It's time to meet the limiting reagent. Okay, here's the official textbook definition. A limiting reactant is simply the reactant, the ingredient, that gets completely used up first in a chemical reaction. And just like our cheese, because it's the first to go, it literally limits how much product you can possibly make. It's the bottleneck. It's the one thing holding the whole operation back. To put it as plainly as possible, the amount of cheese you have determines the final number of sandwiches. That's it. It's your limiting ingredient. And honestly, if you get that, you've pretty much nailed the core idea of limiting reagents. So this all makes sense in the kitchen, right? But how do we take that intuition and actually use it in a lab setting? Well, let's translate our sandwich analogy piece by piece into the language of chemistry. You'll see it's a perfect one-to-one match. Your bread and cheese, in chemistry, we call those reactants. Things like hydrogen and oxygen. The sandwich, the thing you're making, that's your product, like water, H2O. And that simple recipe, 2 bread, 1 cheese, that's just a chemical equation telling you the exact ratio you need for everything to work. Okay, so we've got the what and the why. But how do chemists figure this out for real? It's not just a guessing game, I promise. There's actually a super straightforward 3-step method they use to find the limiting reagent every single time. Step 1, you gotta get the recipe right. That means balancing the chemical equation to know the perfect ratio, just like our 2 bread to 1 cheese. Step 2 is checking your inventory. Chemists do this by calculating moles. Now, don't let the word scare you. Think of it this way. You measure flour in cups, not by individual grains, right? Moles are just the chemist's cup, a standard way to count a massive number of atoms or molecules. And finally, step 3, you find the choke point. You compare the ratio of ingredients you have with the ratio the recipe needs. That's how you spot which one's going to disappear first. See? It's the same exact logic we used with the sandwiches. Now, I know what you might be thinking. This all sounds like a handy trick for your next chemistry test. But trust me, the idea of a limiting reagent is one of the most practical, most powerful concepts in the real world, way beyond the classroom. Let's talk about why this actually matters so much. Think about making life-saving medicines. Some of those ingredients are insanely expensive. You absolutely cannot afford to waste a single drop. So what do? You make sure that pricey ingredient is the limiting reagent, so you use up every last bit. In any huge industrial process, efficiency is everything, and that means 0 waste. And it's not just about money, it's about safety too. The chemical reaction that inflates an airbag in a car crash has to be perfect. Too much of one chemical, not enough of another, and it just doesn't work. This stuff is literally everywhere. So here's the big takeaway. The most important thing to remember is this. Knowing the limiting reagent isn't just about predicting what will happen, it's about controlling what happens. By choosing which ingredient runs out first, you're the one in the driver's seat. You get to dictate exactly how much of your product you're going to get every single time. And that really leads to the next big question, doesn't it? We now know how to find what limits a reaction. We know how to spot the bottleneck. So the real question, the one that drives all sorts of innovation is, how do we change those limits? How do we push past them and maybe even rewrite the recipe itself? Now that is something to think about.